Now the rush to kiss Trump's ring is on. So writes Politico. Big tech to liberal media hosts and world leaders have been lining up to meet with Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Tech titans are pouring millions of dollars into his inauguration. Foreign leaders seeking to curry his favor with phone calls and photo ops. Liberal newscasters rushing to Mar-a-Lago to mend those real tall fences after comparing him to Nazis. The recent embrace of the president-elect is a scene that would have seemed unimaginable 4 years ago. It's a dynamic, though, that Trump himself pointed out. Watch.
The biggest difference is that people want to get along with me this time. Well, they've gone through 4 years, and, it wasn't easy for me, but it wasn't easy for them either. And that's a great thing, though. Getting along is a great thing. One of the big differences between the first term, in the first term, everybody was fighting me. In this term, everybody wants to be my friend. I don't know. My personality changed or something. We have a lot of great executives coming in. The top executives, the top bankers, they're all calling. And honestly, in the first time, I don't know what it was. It's like a complete opposite.
A complete opposite, Ben Ferguson.
Yeah,
Tell us, what do you think changed?
Well, one, I'm cautiously optimistic because I think, well, we talk about this, they're immediately going to be working against him every chance they can on Capitol Hill. I do think the business community is very different now because they realize that he's in charge, he has a mandate, he's coming in with the people around him that are actually going to not work against him, they're going to be working for him, and they're going to get stuff done. And so I think they understand now, okay, we can't treat him the way we treated him when they were trying to impeach him in 2016, when the government was working against him. He's got a mandate, and he has a cabinet that's going to be lockstep with him. And so it's dangerous if you go to war with him now. This is going to be really fun for the country because I think the voters also, there's a mandate from them to do what Donald Trump said he was going to do. There's not a division in this country like everybody wanted it to be. And so the radicals on the left, get ready because it's about to be really fun for us. And it's going to be fun to watch how quickly they get things done. I think Dodge is a great example of that, like how they're literally saying, we're going to come in, and the American people are tired of our tax dollars just being squandered. The wall is going to be another fight. You see him right now fighting over that. This is going to be a fun day for Donald Trump. And I actually will say this. I think it's a blessing Trump didn't win re-election in 2020 because now he understands what he needs to do. I think he's going to have... in an 8-year area, like what it would have taken him 8 years to do in 4 years. It's going to be amazing.
All right, so Lisa, do you agree with that? Is this sort of an impenetrable wall that he represents? Is there still going to be subterfuge? I'm worried about that, though. That's the thing. It worries me more, the snakes that have a sheep's face on, a mask, if you will. That worries me more than those that came out straight away. Or have they resigned themselves to the American mandate that, indeed, this is what America wants and what they need?
Probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Look, I think that, Donald Trump has said that success will unite the country. I think winning did as well. Having the popular vote behind him has helped, this movement create. I agree with Ben that, he's going to be more successful this term than he would have been in 2020. Also, you look at how they were trying to drive away people from wanting to work for Donald Trump in 2020, and now look at the people he's surrounding himself with. Look at these business leaders going to Mar-a-Lago, kissing the ring. Now, some of it is they want something from him, right? They're trying to protect themselves from the terrorists, or if you're Mark Zuckerberg, you're potentially engaged in some censorship that he's been accused of. You might want to be trying to get ahead of that as well. But if Donald Trump was as successful as he was during the first term with the amount of resistance he faced, both internally from the deep state, the investigations, the special counsel, the impeachment, all the things, think about how he's going to be successful now that the wind is against his back. Now that he has all these business leaders on board, now that he's surrounded with all these smart people. So I am so optimistic about the next 4 years. I think that this is going to be some of the best 4 years we've ever seen in the country.
I know, I'm totally excited. Okay, so Carly, talk to me, though, about the media. So we know Morning Joe went up, like what does this portend for that? Are we going to be subjected to just a media that is out to lunch and intent on bringing down our rightfully elected president-elect, or do you think that we'll see actual fair coverage?
Well, this is definitely the honeymoon period, and I don't even think we're seeing fair coverage now, although, Mika and Joe went to meet with him, but only time will tell on that. I think that probably could go downhill from there, just given the past being prologue. But I think the most stunning evolution that we're seeing right now has to do with Silicon Valley. I mean, if you think back to 2016 and all of the tech executives who held those company-wide meetings and openly wept and talked about safe spaces when Donald Trump won the first time around, and then in 2020 got kicked off of all the social media platforms. And now those very same people who had held such disdain for him are now asking him to dinner and donating $1 million to his inauguration fund. It is just so rich. And I think the reason for this is very simple. The last 4 years have not been successful, and Donald Trump didn't just win the Electoral College. He also won the popular vote, which I think has major influence on how world leaders are viewing him right now. And when it comes to business leaders here at home, they have for years been saying behind closed doors, you know, Donald Trump isn't as bad as we're making him out to seem. He wants to cut regulation, cut taxes. He's actually good for business. Now they are saying it out loud. So it took 10 years of political ostracization, 4 or 5 years of being called a threat to democracy, and 2 assassination attempts. And he finally does have the wind at his back going into his second term.
And a partridge in a pear tree. I want to focus on for a second, Harris, the Silicon Valley point that Carly made, because we remember that Google had a presence, a lobbying effort in the Biden administration. It was over 500% compared to any other lobbyist. We know that Kamala Harris enjoyed more donations from Silicon Valley than any other candidate before. So the question is, does Silicon Valley just sort of focus in on whoever's in power, or do you feel that they align themselves with what Trump represents?
Real quickly, Silicon Valley has shareholders, too. So they have accountability for the money that they spent in all the ways that you said politically, and then it just embarrassingly did not work out for anybody that they backed pretty much across the board, because Republicans won the White House, the House, and the Senate. So, but I want to pick up on something that you said, Ben, and that is that, well, it's almost better that he won in 2016 and now 2024. I'm hearing that more and more, and I think the reason is this. Democrats needed to see what the truth was about the people at the highest levels of their party.
Yes.
And you've heard talk just recently about, hey, this is Trump's party, meaning the Republicans. But Democrats are going to be reshaped as well. They cannot go forth and just lie to people and just try to convince them that Bidenomics worked when it didn't, try to convince them that what they're feeling in Chicago with a city that's built, spent north of $500 million, not on its citizens, but on illegals, that's not impactful too. Like, it can't just operate business as usual as a party. And you will see these Democrats around Trump. Plus, he picked one for a cabinet member. He picked a Democrat. RFK Jr., a Kennedy. So it is interesting. This time around, he may have the potential for even greater change. And you're right, he's going to have to do it quickly, but he's got a running start.
Even Mitt Romney said, this is now the party of Donald Trump.
That's right.
That's like a heck freezing over moment. When Mitt Romney walks out, like, look, it's the party of MAGA. Like, that is huge, and it tells you the mindset in D.C. right now, which is, you better get on board or you're going to get run over by Donald Trump.
And Trump's shaping the other side of the aisle.
And real quick, a lot of these lies have been exposed, right? You know, if Donald Trump's Hitler, if he's all these terrible things he's been called, you wouldn't have all these people going to Mar-a-Lago and kissing the ring. But also think about how evil that is to tell those lies to the American people, to sow that kind of division for, political gain, only to lose. Thank God.
All right, Larry Kudlow's chomping at the bit to respond to that. He is here, host of Kudlow on Fox Business. Go ahead. You said you were sitting here and you were saying he's in his element. The way he's negotiating on the world stage in real time.
He is in his element, hitting his stride. Look, this is one of the most remarkable honeymoon periods, really. And I just missed Grover Cleveland's second transition. I know John Roberts missed the thing. I was a little late on that. I was a McKinley guy myself. That came later. But in all seriousness, Mr. Trump, you could see him at the news conference yesterday, at ease. Moderate demeanor, answering all the questions. I just pulled
the sound of the moment that you and I just discussed. He was asked about the CEOs who appear to be knocking on his door now that ignored him in his first term. Listen.
In the first term, everybody was fighting me. In this term, everybody wants to be my friend. I don't know. My personality changed or something.
I shouldn't have said ignore. They were going after him. Now they're knocking on his door and saying they want to meet with him.
One of the biggest things, I don't know that he's had a personality change, frankly. Some things have changed after taking a bullet during this campaign, that awful assassination attempt. But I think what also changes, he won the popular vote, and he won all 7 of the swing states. And there was no hassle, finally, with the election outcome, okay? And then there was no Russia, Russia, Russia hoax, and the intelligence community and the FBI and the deep state, they're now running scared because he's going to be replacing them, and he's putting in great people like John Radcliffe and Kash Patel. So all these things have changed. The entire political story has changed. He himself is at ease. And it's very cool to watch. He's answering every question. All right? Now, you're going to ask me about TikTok, which is not one that he answered with any great specificity. But basically, in general terms, you know, he talked about international affairs. He talked about what's going to happen to Hamas or Iran, or what he wants to do with Russia and Ukraine, or what he wants to do with the border. He sort of made a little joke about Justin Trudeau, who may not be the 51st state because it's going to be out pretty soon. He's going to lose his whole majority up in Canada. But all these things, Mr. Trump is handling them easily. He made some we won't get to it here, but he made some very important discussions about trade reciprocity, how he views his trade strategy, which is something I've known for quite some time, but he explained it beautifully.
Yeah, just want to put this up as you were talking about his wildly popular honeymoon. This is your New York Sun column. It's nice to have a president who can stand up at a press conference with a full grasp of policy. And you can expect, based on the solo press conferences that he gave as president, which was 44, Biden stands at 14 so far, that we will see and hear a lot from him over the next 4 years.
It's a key leadership characteristic. No teleprompter, no canned answers, no memorized stuff. He engages people back and forth. He engages with his guests, what he did with the Japanese investor. He'll engage with the press. He'll make statements. He'll say, well, okay, but we're going to take a look at this and that. It just projects American strength for a change, right? We all want this.
Just real quick before you go. What's with the stock? What's with the stock? We never want you to leave.
Oh, I don't want to leave.
Fine, TikTok. I give you 10 seconds. Should he ban it or not? Where do you stand?
My view is he should ban it. That was his original position. Now, he enjoys support from the TikTok subscribers.
Yes.
I get that, okay, and it helped him in the campaign. I understand that. But the problem is that the evidence strongly suggests that TikTok is a Chinese spy operation, okay? And we tried to sell TikTok to an American company back in 2020. The clock ran out, obviously.
So you're for the ban?
I'm for the ban. I'd love to, look, you can't sell ByteDance just selling it. You have to change the software infrastructure, the so-called algorithms that would keep the Chinese Communist Party from absorbing all of the personal information that's built up in TikTok.
Could be an impossible task.
It is. It's very difficult. And the president knows that. And that's why I don't think he wants to make a final definitive. He may try to sell it. He may bring in, we looked at Oracle, we looked at Microsoft. There are other firms that might want it. TikTok is a fabulous operation for the kids who are using it, but it's not fabulous in terms of international affairs and the Chinese spy operation.
Till next time, Larry Kudlow. We'll see you at 4 o'clock on FBN. Thank you very much, sir.
I'm just hanging out here.
We woke him up to come in today.
Got it.
Thanks, Larry. All right, John.
And former Chief Counsel to Senate Majority Leader Bill Frist, Alex Vogel. Alex is also the Vogel Group founder and CEO. I'd love to talk about drones, but we got some other things we would have to talk about. So tech leaders lining up at Mar-a-Lago to get close to Trump, it would seem. Here's what Jerry Baker wrote in the Wall Street Journal. Trump is back, this time without disdain. They have all been forming an orderly, respectful line to bend the knee, kiss the ring, and then slip the big check. It's like Game of Thrones, only with money attached to it. What's going on, Alex?
Look, a couple of things. Number one, the first time, I don't think a lot of these folks knew what to expect or how to engage with him, and they were being fed a constant drumbeat about him that wasn't exactly favorable. This time, I think they're, number one, genuinely excited from an economic perspective about what he wants to unleash and their role in it. And he's now super engaged with people in that community, whether it's Elon, his work around crypto. So I think they are genuinely excited. And look, everyone loves a winner and wants to be on the team and engaged.
And Trump seems to be genuinely astounded by the reaction. Listen to what he said yesterday.
I did have dinner with Tim Cook. I had dinner with sort of almost all of them, and the rest are coming. One of the big differences between the first term, everybody was fighting me. In this term, everybody wants to be my friend. I don't know. My personality changed or something.
So, Juan, what's going on? Is this hangover from 4 years of Biden? Is this Trump saying the right things? Or, door number 3, did his personality change?
I think it's a lot to do with fear. That he
Fear?
might. Yeah, I think there's worry about regulation. There's a lot that is to be done in this country.
But he wants to cut regulation.
Well, the question is, will there be who gets regulated and under what conditions, and also competition with Elon Musk, who is sitting right by him and who is a big tech guy. And of course, for people like Jeff Bezos, as well as Tim Cook and others, they see that as competition. But I just see this as sort of business smarts. Not politics. I mean, there's shareholder value in having a relationship with the incoming president, given concern about possible regulation or changes in laws that might be promulgated by a Republican majority in the Congress. So I think that for those reasons, it's just smart for them to say on a transactional basis that we have input with this president. And goodness gracious, $1 million donation, that's like couch money for these guys.
Yeah, well, that's true. It is. Hey, I want to ask you quickly. We just got a minute left. Apparently, Kamala Harris is maybe making some noise about throwing her hat in the ring in 2028. Good idea? Bad idea?
Look, I'm not going to give the Democrats any electoral advice. I don't think they'd take it from me. But given how things just went, she just lost the popular vote for the first time in a long time. Hey, if that's what they think the best answer is, bring it on. I think between now and the next election, there's going to be other voices that are going to make a compelling argument.
Why do you want to see a return of Kamala?
It's fine with me. I didn't think she ran a bad race. I just don't think that right now there's any reason to see her as the leading candidate for that nomination. You've got people out there from Gretchen Whitmer to the governor of California.
Yeah, so there's a lot of choices. We'll see. Well, 4 years is a long time, but then again, it goes by pretty quickly. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, look who's popular now. 8 years after stepping off that golden escalator and facing resistance at every turn, President-elect Trump is the talk of the town. Foreign leaders and tech CEOs are all scrambling to get a seat at Mar-a-Lago. Big names like Tim Cook, Mark Zuckerberg, and Jeff Bezos have either met with or will be meeting with the president-elect about his second term. And even Trump himself seemed surprised by the positive reaction.
I had dinner with sort of almost all of them, and the rest are coming. And this is one of the big differences, I think, between, we were talking about it before, one of the big differences between the first term. In the first term, everybody was fighting me. In this term, everybody wants to be my friend. I don't know. My personality changed or something.
There's a good reason why President-elect Trump is resonating with so many in the business community. At his core, the guy knows how to work a room. Even Stephanie Ruhle is giving him props for being more approachable than Joe and Kamala.
I called him and said, I want an interview with you. Obviously, he said no. But my point is, I was able to get to him by dialing his phone. If I were to want to connect with VP Harris or President Biden, there's 50 people between me and that. I could write a note that maybe could get to somebody, then through Pony Express and a pigeon, something might end up in a mailbox near them. And I called DJT to say, yo, can I have an interview? He told me to go myself, but I still was able to connect with him.
All right, Dana, yesterday, I think I either said or asked the question, is that a change in Donald Trump or is a change in America? But I think maybe it lies more in the past 4 years and having lived through the Biden years and his disastrous policies. Which do you think it is?
I think it's a little bit of everything, but in particular, when people... So Joe Biden gets elected by saying, I'm going to return things to normal. I'm going to calm everything down. And then he got into office and with his chief of staff, Ron Klain, decided to take every squad member position and move the country so far to the left that they couldn't tack back. And then they started the lies. There's the Afghanistan withdrawal, et cetera. So 4 years of that was like enough. Before Ronald Reagan ran for president, well, back when he was thinking about running for president, maybe he even had his hat in the primary, people said Reagan's crazy. Then Jimmy Carter became president. And after 4 years, people were like, we would like Reagan, please. And then they started the Reagan Revolution. And an interesting thing about the tech CEOs is this time you don't have the boards of directors or the shareholders saying a word. There's no negativity and no blowback from their customers or their shareholders or their boards. And in fact, there might even be some encouragement. The last thing I'd say is there's something to be said about conversation and the power to convene. That's one of the best powers that a president has and the cabinet will have is let's get together, let's talk. And there's power in conversation. That's what we do. This is one of the reasons this show is so successful for 14 years, because we can have a conversation, talk about ideas, go, oh, on the one hand, on the other, oh, actually, I hadn't thought about it that way. Interesting. But meeting somebody and just being able to break bread together, this is a way that you can end or at least mend some of the bad relationships and help polarization in the country.
You know, Jesse, do we see, big tech's change of heart in terms, I mean, think of what they did. I mean, not just in terms of the 2020 election and shutting down all social media, but they were heavily invested in making sure that Donald Trump didn't win, calling him a racist. And so is this change of heart about business or politics?
It's probably both. The best story. So remember when Zuckerberg canceled Trump off Facebook after January 6th? Yep. Well, he invites him down to Mar-a-Lago for dinner. He begs to come for dinner. And he brings in the January 6th choir. And the January 6th choir sings the anthem. And Zuckerberg has to stand with his hand to his heart while the January 6th choir sings the national anthem. And it's a long time from 4 years ago, Judge. You either have to get on board or you're going to get tied down to the tracks. The first election was a shocking win. This was a commanding win. And we had a guest on last night and said some brilliant stuff, and I'm just going to repackage it.
Love that.
Trump is so unique. Here's why. He's wealthy, so you can't bribe him.
Yep.
He's handsome, and so you can't honey trap him. He's been around models his whole life. And he's also a celebrity, so you can't influence him with A-listers. He's not awestruck. He's not starstruck. So the only way you can really charm him is by investing in America. And we look back at some of the donations from some of these inaugurations. They give a couple pennies. It's usually a couple $100,000, and no one makes a thing out of it. Now it's like press release, Amazon's donating $1 million. This company's donating $1 million. Everybody wants to get on board, and you're right, Dana. He's so much more commercially viable now because think about the dark cloud of January 6th, the Fine People hoax, Russia. Now no one cares. Everybody wants to get in on this. Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, Democrat, was trying to get a picture taken with Trump at Army Navy and was waiting outside the suite. It was locked. He had to stand out in the hallway, and he got his picture taken. And now these donors, Reed Hastings, Netflix, are making a pilgrimage to the patio in Mar-a-Lago. And the Democratic Party can't do anything about it. So when Kamala Harris says we got to fight, all of her donors are at Mar-a-Lago trying to get along.
You know, Harold, doesn't this sudden change of heart prove that when the left said that Trump was racist and that he was Hitler, that even they didn't believe it?
Well, good to be back with you. I always said that people shouldn't be calling people Hitler and fascists, but we should all take a step back. This is a time-honored tradition when you have a president elected that business leaders, be they Democrat or Republican,
Didn't happen in 2016.
Well, it happened in 2012. It happened in 2008. It happened in 2004. I hear you, but I'm just saying this is not. I understand the purpose of your question, what you're trying to get at, but this happens with business leaders, and we should all think it's a great thing. Because the thing that is driving and fueling our economy and driving all of this growth, a lot of these men and women who are going to see the president, Ted Sarandos is one from Netflix, he and Reed are co-heads of the company, they're going down because of AI revolution concerns, growth and antitrust concerns. Everyone has interests here. And it's great to see, I thought Stephanie Ruhle said it well, and Democrats ought to take a lesson from this. Yep. It's the axis of access and answers versus evasion and elitism. We've gotten to a point in our party, she was right, you couldn't reach anybody without going through 20 people, and you hope the 30th person could get you a call back. The fact that the president is taking these calls, taking these meetings, whether he agrees or disagrees, it lets everyone know what the rules are on the playing field. And if you know what the rules are, you can succeed, whether it's Tim Cook, whether it's Mark Zuckerberg, whether it's Ted Sarandos, whomever it may be. And for that matter, I even think that the president's trying to figure out what his answer is going to be on TikTok. I think his answer there is a critical one. And if he's lining up some of these guys to perhaps buy TikTok from ByteDance, it'd be a great thing for the country. And as the president said yesterday, he got such a big lead with young people. I'm sure he would like it as well if TikTok was sold to an American company.
That's right. He did very well on TikTok. He told us that yesterday.
He did indeed.
All right, Brian. Think of how much Donald Trump was able to get done during his first term, in spite of the impeachment and the protests and the riots and the hate and all that. This really can be a golden age for America.
It can. It seems like everyone's on the same page because what he's saying is not Republican ideas. It's not like, oh, here's my conservative agenda. He goes, here's the Trump agenda for the country. And that's why he's blurring the line and making it hard to fight. And I think that's got the Democrats a little off balance. So I asked one of the Trump officials, what are they asking? What's going on at dinner? Like, do they just come down and they just have a good time? And he says, first they make amends. They look at to form relationships. Then they pitch them on their plans. And then he says, they all say, this is how we're going to invest in America and hire American workers. And what they love is that promise of 15% tax rate if we do just that, make our products here. I also think we should go to the next level and allow our first-round draft picks, immigrants that are going to college here. I think part of immigration could be letting them stay because we need these workers. Steve Jobs talked about it before he died in Apple. He goes, I can't bring the manufacturing back here. We don't have enough engineers. So if we're training them, why are we sending them back to India and China? Let's keep them here. So I don't think there's any problem with that. And I would say this to Mark Zuckerberg, especially, and Sergey Brin, and that unpronounceable name Pinchot over at Google. You want to prove to me that you want to prove to me that you are into it now? You're going to be pro-American. Do what Elon Musk did. Let Matt Taibbi, let Barry Weiss, and let Michael Schellenberger go into your Facebook files the way they went into the Twitter files and talk about what exactly you did in 2020 and during the pandemic to silence conservative thought, pro-Trump thought, and maybe people that were questioning the vaccine. Then I know you wanted to make amends. Until then, you're kind of getting away with it. You're right. And getting a fresh start.
You are so right. When the CEOs go to dinner, the first thing they do is apologize.
Yeah, they may look to make amends. Hey, sorry about that. Lost my temper there.
No,
Let's get this out of the way.
Can't you see Donald Trump sitting there and say,
"You go first."
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I think, Judge? And you know a lot of CEOs. I think they all thought they could have done what Trump did, and they're like mad at themselves that this guy could do it in 2016. By the time 2024 came around, they realized they couldn't have done it. There's something special about Trump.
Yes, I think everyone agrees with that.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.